Ever wondered if you could survive in the ancient world? Let's be honest, we all like to romanticize the past. But today, we're going to the cradle of civilization, ancient Mesopotamia, and I'm going to show you why you probably wouldn't last a single day. So, grab your water, you're going to need it, and let's step back in time. Imagine waking up before sunrise, not to the sound of an alarm, but to the urgent need to get to work. You're in the city of yore, around 4,000 years ago. Forget your comfy bed. You've just spent the night on a reed mat, on a packed earth floor. The air is already thick and heavy, and the sun is about to turn the world into an oven. Your first task: haul water from the canal. This isn't just for your morning drink. It's for mixing mud and straw to make bricks, the building blocks of your entire world. Your job for the next 12 hours is simple: manual labor under a relentless sun. Whether you're a farmer in the fields, a builder on the ziggurat, or a weaver in a dusty workshop, the work is backbreaking. Forget lunch breaks and weekends. Your life is a cycle of toil dictated by the seasons and the demands of the temple. The heat is oppressive, often soaring well above 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Dehydration is a constant threat, and the water you drink from the canals is teeming with parasites. A simple cut could lead to a fatal infection. And the food? Your diet consists mainly of barley, porridge, flatbread, and if you're lucky, some onions and dates. It's monotonous, gritty, and just enough to fuel another day of labor. But it's not just the physical hardship. Your life is governed by a complex web of rituals and divine whims. Every event, from a dust storm to a failed crop, is seen as a message from the gods. Did you forget your morning offering to Nana, the moon god? That could be why your back aches. You live in constant, low-grade anxiety, trying to appease deities who are often depicted as unpredictable and demanding. The priests hold all the power, interpreting these signs and collecting offerings which are, essentially, taxes on your hard-earned grain. You are a tiny cog in a massive machine, serving the gods and the king, with very little personal freedom. Now, let's zoom out from the daily grind and look at one of the greatest cities of this era, Uruk, the city of the legendary King Gilgamesh. This was one of the world's first true metropolises, a sprawling city of towering walls and magnificent temples. The story of its most famous ruler, Gilgamesh, is immortalized in the world's first epic poem. Was he a real king? A demigod? The line is incredibly blurry. Historians believe there was likely a real king named Gilgamesh who ruled Uruk around 2700 BC. Over centuries, his real-life deeds were embellished, transforming him into the mythic hero who wrestled with gods and sought the secret to eternal life. The Epic of Gilgamesh isn't just a fantasy story. It's a window into the Mesopotamian soul. It speaks of their fear of death, their love for friendship, and their awe of the untamed natural world. Gilgamesh's quest for immortality, which ultimately fails, reflects a deep-seated belief that death is final and that a person's legacy is the only thing that endures. The massive walls he built around Uruk, mentioned in the epic and confirmed by archaeology, were his true legacy, a tangible achievement that would outlast him. The story shows us that even the most powerful king was humbled by the forces of nature and the finality of death, a lesson every Mesopotamian understood. Uruk itself rose and fell, conquered by rivals and eventually swallowed by the desert sands, a powerful reminder that even the greatest cities are impermanent. So, where do we get all this information? From digging in the dirt, of course. Archaeologists working in modern-day Iraq have unearthed secrets that have been buried for millennia, often centered around the most iconic Mesopotamian structure, the ziggurat. These massive stepped pyramids weren't tombs like in Egypt. They were temples, designed to be stairways to the heavens, connecting the earthly realm with the divine. At the very top was a shrine, a sacred space where priests performed secret rituals for the city's patron god. Beneath the shadow of these ziggurats, archaeologists found more than just foundations. They found entire temple complexes, workshops, and administrative buildings. And in the ruins, they discovered the greatest Mesopotamian invention of all: writing. They unearthed thousands of clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform, the world's earliest writing system. At first, these were simple pictographs, a picture of a head of barley to represent barley, but over time, it evolved into a complex system of wedge-shaped marks that could represent sounds and abstract ideas. These tablets are like time capsules. They aren't just epic poems. Most of them are receipts, contracts, tax records, and lists of goods. We have records of how many sheep were offered to the temple, legal disputes over property, and even school tablets where apprentice scribes practiced their letters. They reveal a society obsessed with order, accounting, and bureaucracy. We've also found royal tombs, like the famous royal cemetery of yore, filled with gold, jewels, and chillingly, the bodies of sacrificed attendants, meant to serve their masters in the afterlife. These discoveries paint a detailed, and sometimes grim, picture of their beliefs about life, death, and the power structures that defined their world. Speaking of power, let's talk about the 1% of ancient Mesopotamia. While you were out hauling mud bricks, the priestly elite were living a very different life. As the intermediaries between the people and the gods, high priests and temple scribes held immense power and prestige. Their lives were dedicated to study, ritual, and administration. They lived within the temple complex, in comfortable quarters, far from the noise and grime of the city. Their daily routine was one of serene, rigid luxury. They were scholars, astronomers, and mathematicians. They tracked the movements of the stars to create calendars and predict omens. They managed the temple's vast wealth, its land, its livestock, and the endless stream of offerings from the common folk. They were the keepers of knowledge, the only ones who could read and write the sacred texts and complex legal codes. Being a scribe was a ticket to a better life, a way to escape the brutal physical labor that was the fate of nearly everyone else. However, their lives were not without pressure. A mistake in a ritual, a misinterpretation of an omen, or a failure to please the king, could have disastrous consequences. Theirs was a world of political intrigue and strict religious protocol. They enjoyed comfort and influence, but they were also bound by the rigid structure they helped maintain. Their luxury was built on the sweat of the masses, and their role was to ensure that the divine order and order that placed them at the top was never questioned. So, could you have lasted a day? Maybe, but you wouldn't have enjoyed it. Ancient Mesopotamia was a land of incredible innovation, the wheel, writing, the city itself. But it was also a harsh, unforgiving world, where life was short, labor was endless, and your destiny was largely out of your hands. It reminds us to be grateful for the comforts we often take for granted. The next time you turn on a tap or flick a light switch, spare a thought for the people of ancient yore, whose toil laid the very foundations of the world we live in today. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the ancient world, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let me know in the comments which ancient civilization you'd like to visit next. See you in the next one.
Stranded in the open, dried out tears of sorrow, lacking all emotion, staring down the barrel, waiting for
कमरे में घुसता जैसे हाथी टेबल बैठ